Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi.
How are you?
Good, good,
Doing
good.
well, thank you.
Good.
How are you?
Good. I'm doing okay. I'm just changing my name so I don't just get listed as Temple Sinai. How's everything going there?
Good.
Good.
Nice.
We have our dates for vaccines, March 20th, so
It's
that's
coming.
good.
Oh,
Just
good.
a couple of weeks.
Getting closer.
Good. Here in town?
Yeah, at the
Yeah,
Dome.
yeah, right near where we are, yeah.
Excellent.
Sure.
Excellent.
Today I
excellent.
heard such wonderful things about the Dome, everything I wanted to hear, because I need a lot of reassurance on what they know about my background. The first thing apparently they ask you is, are you here for underlying conditions? And I'm going to be taking with me a lot of information, printed information,
Yeah.
so that they can review it. Because there's a good possibility I would have a severe reaction. So, I think it's important to get this down so they not just hearing it, but seeing it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Please God, please God, all will go well, right? They have medical, personnel everywhere.
Yes.
And I think they're doing their due diligence,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's great.
And
Yeah.
I also heard that it's very large in there. It's not like going into a Walgreens. So people
There's a
are
stadium, yeah.
people are well spaced, and
Mhm.
you were there?
I haven't been there yet, but we have appointments on April 2nd, and
Yeah.
I've heard other people say it's very well organized. They move you through pretty quickly. So, and there's more space there. So you're right. It's,
Yeah.
you're not
You
going
know,
to
in the late 70s, early 80s, the RPO Pops played there
really.
at the Dome when it was called the Dome Arena. Some people still do that. They changed it to
Yeah.
Dome Center. But my former wife and I would go hear the Pops in the summer before,
Wow.
before Canandaigua built
Yeah.
CMAC, of course. So,
Right, right. Hey, Rabbi Till, I'm the greeter. Greetings, everybody.
Welcome. Well, good to see you.
you look like you're in Marina.
I am at the Erie Canal in my mind in the fall. I finally figured out how to do a virtual background and not even be all squirrely looking. So
Yeah.
Is it hard to do? Is it hard to do?
it's really not, but I called Lindsay one day and I said, I'm sure you know how to do it. Well, she hadn't done it, but she figured it out because she can do that stuff.
She's brilliant with that when
I
it comes
kept
to
trying
that
to do
technology.
it like when I was in a meeting and it would get all squirreled up, and you can't do it that way. You have to go into your settings.
Setting, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
It's a new world, Golda, right? We're all figuring it out. We're all
Yeah.
figuring it out. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
I've
right.
never done one yet.
Yeah, well, this is my first shot, and I had these, I had a whole bunch of pictures of the Erie Canal, and I said, you know what, I'm doing that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. It's always nice to see the temple in the background as well.
Yeah, I've got to figure
Esther,
out how to get
hello.
that. How do I get that picture? How do I get that?
I'm trying to think. I think I have it. Yeah, I don't think I can do it right now, but I think I have it.
Mhm.
I can see. I don't know if you can send it to someone.
You probably can, if you've
That's
got the,
that's the one,
yeah,
right?
that
That's
one.
the one. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Oh,
if you,
that's beautiful.
yeah, if you've got the
Wow.
JPEG, you can send it to me.
Yeah, I will. If you would please remind me on Monday, that would be
Okay.
great. And Esther, I'm not ignoring you. Shabbat
No.
Shalom.
Shabbat
Shalom.
The wand,
Shabbat Shalom, Esther.
Yes.
the wand, as is fitting, both you and Renee, the wand has disappeared on Amazon. But I sourced it in a couple of other places, so I'll send you that information once I find it.
I love the one.
Yeah.
See, you haven't even asked why we each need it.
I figured
But
that
we
might be.
do.
I figured that might be personal.
It might.
We do though. We really need the one.
For what?
We're not saying.
Stuff.
Hello, Cantor, Shabbat Shalom, Cantor.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom, Cantor.
Shabbat Shalom.
I'm the
Shabbat
greeter,
shalom.
so I'm saying greetings.
Oh, Renee, you have a beautiful background. Some boat.
Right? It's the Erie Canal.
Yeah, now I can see it.
Beautiful.
I was just saying, Lindsay showed me how to get my virtual background.
Oh my
'Cause I
goodness.
could not figure it out to save my life.
Sometimes the thing, if you don't have a green screen, yours looks nice, but sometimes if you don't have a green screen, your head
Yeah.
not yours, but some, people's heads kind of look disembodied, right? Like they
Right,
just kind of look
right.
like they're floating against the backdrop, which is weird. And, limbs
Yeah.
disappear if you don't have the right thing. And it's kind of an exercise in perception, I think, right?
Yeah, that's why I wasn't sure it would work because I don't have a green screen, but
No, it looks great. Looks great.
I said,
Perfect,
yeah,
perfect.
yeah.
It's good, yeah.
So it was a toss up between the Erie Canal and the Arizona when we went to the Grand Canyon. So I'll probably rotate. So we'll move around.
Hi,
Shabbat
David.
shalom, David.
Hi, David. Good to see you. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat
Shabbat
shalom.
shalom, Bobby.
Shabbat shalom, Bobby.
Shabbat shalom.
Mm. Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Yeah. Shabbat shalom, Alan.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, Alan.
Shabbat shalom, Alan.
David, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
You can. Shabbat shalom. Good to
Oh,
see you.
good.
Sorry,
Shabbat
sorry we
shalom.
missed each other. Sorry we missed each other.
I understand. Not a problem at all.
Yeah, how are you doing? I'm sorry to hear about your loss, about your uncle. How's it going in the family?
Oh.
Thank you. We're all fine. The funeral was today, and
Mm.
they kept it just to a few people, my parents and his sons, because of the COVID. It was in New Jersey in any event.
Yeah.
I spoke to everybody, and everybody's fine. My parents and my cousins may be joining the service.
Nice.
Oh, that would be nice.
They are. So
Nice. Good,
That
good.
would be nice.
Good.
Yeah, it's so hard now. I mean, it's always hard to lose somebody, but right now it's just that much worse because you can't do all the things that you normally do that bring comfort and that, help people with closure and all that. So I'm so sorry.
thank you. We will do something in the summer probably.
Mhm.
Things are better.
Good.
You
Good,
let
good.
us know if we can help you with
Thank you.
something over summer.
Thank you.
Hi, Rachel. We're glad to have you with us. We see your name, but not your face quite yet, but we're happy to have you with us. You're muted. Rachel, you're muted. You're muted still.
You would think that after a year I would have gotten the hang of this. I'm sorry. I've been trying to log in from my computer and it hasn't been working. So I'm gonna I wanted you to know that I'm here.
You're here. I'm glad. I'm happy. I'm happy and relieved.
Yeah, I'm just trying to log in my computer so I can use a PowerPoint that I prepared.
Gotcha.
Great.
Shabbat shalom, Rachel.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat
Shabbat
shalom.
Hi, Susan.
Stacy, Shabbat shalom, and Susan.
Shabbat shalom,
Shabbat
Susan.
shalom.
Shabbat
And
shalom,
Jan-
cats. Yes,
Jan
cats
Katz.
family. Shabbat
I
shalom.
see them. Yes.
Shabbat shalom. Everybody is coming in muted, so make sure if you want to say hello, you unmute yourself.
Hi, Bonnie and Ed, and everybody else.
Hi, good Shabbos.
Esther, hi.
Hi, Susan.
Hi,
Hello.
Susan.
Hi, Susan. Good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see everyone.
Good to see you.
Gave my kids warning, 5 minutes warning. You know, of silence.
Oh. That must be tough.
It's okay, they can handle for 1 hour, you know.
That's good. That's good. They must be maturing. It's
Yes,
hard.
yeah.
Hard for little boys to be quiet.
It's hard in general, I think, right? When all of us are working and living from,
Right.
the same place, right? All the time. All
Yep.
the time. Yeah.
Yes, everybody is adjusting, but thank God school is, is open, which is a miracle itself since
Yeah, it is.
September, right?
Yeah. That's really good.
Who could even imagine that? right?
That's right.
In March.
Shabbat Shalom, Susan Itkin and Monica Ketzel.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. You're muted, Susan. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Hi, Monica. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Bonnie and Ed.
Shabbat Shalom, Monica.
Monica,
Susan.
Susan.
Hey, Monica and
Shabbat Shalom.
Susan. And
Hi, Susan.
Tracy
You
and
look
everybody.
wonderful. I love the new hairdo.
oh, thank you. It's like a little like yours. It's,
Well, I just had me done.
me too. Me too.
A little
Right.
anti-aging, you know.
Ah, wow.
Hello, Monica.
Hi.
Good.
Hi, Alan. Judy.
Hi there.
Hi,
Hi,
Alan,
Ellen.
Judy.
Hi,
Shabbat
everyone.
Shalom.
Shabbat
Hi,
Hi,
shalom.
Barbara.
Hi, Alan.
How is the sunny Florida? How's
Oh,
the
Yes.
sunny?
It's been quite pleasant, thanks. And we got our vaccines, which is really great.
Oh,
Mazel tov.
Yay,
Mazel tov.
yay. Good. Yes.
Shabbat Shalom, Judy.
Judy.
You're muted.
Yes, if anybody is just
here.
Shabbat Shalom. Way down the road,
Oh, Judy's
you can call Lifespan. I called Wednesday. We got an appointment that, not that day, but for Sunday.
Really?
Yes, and it's marvelous. You go to Victor to Mead Pharmacy. It's 15 miles away. It's nothing. Route 96. But they are so nice. They call you, they walk through everything. They let you do the paperwork over the phone. They send you an email about it. And they couldn't be nicer. So if you know somebody. So here's the thing.
That's
we are
great.
getting our second vaccine before we even could get our first going to the dome.
Wow.
Great.
Wow.
Oh,
Um,
good.
So
That's
pass it along.
That's good information,
Yeah,
Judy.
it's great.
Yeah.
244-8400.
I'm writing it down.
Maybe you can put in the chat.
Oh, I don't know how to do
Good
it.
idea, yeah.
Okay. Can you say it again? 585. I can
No,
put it.
yeah, 585-244-8400. And you hit 0 and ask for Jody.
And that's Lifespan.
Lifespan, yeah. But I mean, it took
Lifespan.
10 minutes
That's
to
the
do. And I got the call from a friend, and by the time I called Lifespan, it was like 15 minutes to do the whole thing.
Wow.
They're so nice.
Good. Fantastic. Fantastic.
That's great.
Hi, Howard. Good to see you. Good to see
Shabbat
you.
Shalom, Howard.
Hi, Howard.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom, Jean.
Shabbat Shalom. How are you?
Shabbat
Good.
Shalom, everybody.
Where's Howard?
Freezing.
So Esther,
Oh,
Shabbat
I
Shalom.
see Ron Newman. Shabbat Shalom, Ron Newman.
Shabbat Shalom. Karen will be here in a minute.
Okay. And Marlene.
Hi,
Hi,
Ron.
Marlene.
Hi,
Shabbat
Ron.
Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Hi, Esther. Hi, Rabbi. Hi,
Hi,
Kim.
Marlene.
Shabbat Shalom. Hi, Marlene.
This is fun. Yeah.
Lester has not come home from giving shots today.
Uh-huh.
Where was he?
He's
At
doing
at
that.
the Fleet Center, which is by the airport somewhere. Don't ask. I never even heard of it. But that one is run by the health department.
I
Okay.
got my second one.
Oh,
Yay.
great.
Yay.
Woo.
Who got their second?
Shabbat Shalom, Bondies.
Also, Kodak, the Kodak Center, and now open it for everybody. It's not only for restricted zip code.
Right.
Okay, good
I
to
heard
know.
that.
It's for everyone.
Yeah, that's the Hawkeye plan.
But we've really got to get those people in those zip codes. It's really sad
Yeah.
to get them there. Yeah.
Yeah. Shabbat Shalom, Marcia and Abby.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Marcia and Abby, yes.
And I see Linda, but not Bill, even though it says Bill. Hi, Linda.
Shabbat
Hi,
Shalom.
Sharon.
Hi, sweetie.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Joyce, Shabbat Shalom.
Hi, Howard.
Shabbat
Good to see you
Shalom.
before.
And
So, Susan,
Audrey.
Holly,
Yes. Shabbat Shalom.
good to see you.
Thank you.
And Elise, Grandma Elise. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Mazel
Mazel
tov.
tov.
Come over.
Thank you.
Here's my son, Jeff.
Shabbat Shalom.
Yeah.
Shabbat
Hi,
Shalom.
Jeff. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
And the wonderful Joyce. I saw the wonderful Joyce.
Hi, Joyce. Which Joyce? I'm always afraid it's Joyce Harmon. Joyce
The
Harmon.
wonderful Joyce.
It's you, Joyce.
Quiet. Come here.
The wonderful Joyce.
Hi, Marilyn. Marilyn.
And here's Tiki Barker.
Ah.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom.
Right. Put your yummy on.
Shabbat shalom, Judy.
Shabbat
Hi,
shalom.
Jen and Alan.
Shabbat shalom, Judy and Alan.
Yes. Shabbat shalom, Alan.
Shabbat shalom, everybody. I am mindful of the time, but I'm also mindful of the beautiful story of the little boy who, who doesn't, I'm sure you've heard the story before, it usually comes up around the holidays, who doesn't know how to speak Hebrew, but he knows the Aleph Bet. And so he just keeps repeating the Aleph Bet, right? Just, the equivalent of A, B, C, D, Aleph Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, right? And the teaching, ultimately, it's a beautiful teaching. I do it a disservice, is that he's worried that he can't pray properly to God. But he is taught that God can put together the intentions of his heart with the letters that he is offering. And I am thinking, as I hear each week, I love the 5 minutes before we start services and the 5 minutes after services with all the equivalent Shabbat Shaloms and how are you doing and who's vaccinated and how can I help? And right, for me, that is, we could start there and say Shabbat Shalom, and I hope you have a lovely dinner, and right, and that would be a beautiful and sacred way to spend Shabbat. But how blessed and how fortunate are we to come together this evening and so many Shabbatot together to mark a pause in the week that has been and the week that is coming, and to pause and to reflect, and where possible to renew and re-engage, but really to step back in a way. We're thankful. There has been tremendous news from Israel this week. I'm sure you heard with the Supreme Court ruling that now acknowledges, that recognizes reform and conservative conversions that take place in Israel. Really an enormous stride forward with many, many more ahead of us to walk in recognition and respect and dignity for progressive Judaism in Israel. So we ought to note that as we pause and celebrate that, and celebrate the good health that many of you and many of us enjoy as we come together tonight. Early thanks to Rachel Zoglin, who is our speaker this evening from Hayes, and thanks again at the end of services as we remember our roots, as we look at Refugee Shabbat and spend some time listening to Rachel and learning from Rachel about the importance of immigration and refugees, and she's going to be teaching us much more in a few moments. So thankful are we to gather together. I hope you'll join us in song and in prayer and in spirit and in intention as we start Shabbat together. So please take a deep breath in, and join us this evening. We'll start with song as we continue that breath that allows us to function, to be, to delight, and to praise God. So please sing with us, Kol HaNeshama. Why a refugee Shabbat? Because we know to be a Jew is to know the heart of a refugee. My people were refugees too. This we remember and this we know. Jewish history begins with Abraham and Sarah leaving their home and going on an arduous journey to a land that they did not know. And as they took their first steps on this journey, Abraham and Sarah did not know that their descendants would later become known as the wandering Jews, as Jews traveled from one home to the next to escape famine and persecution. Oh, I think my screen doesn't allow me to see. Hold on one second. Cantor Braun, I'm sorry, you'll have to read the last line. My screen doesn't allow me to see the very bottom.
No problem. Throughout the centuries.
Just see if I can rework that. Our spiritual ancestors first went down to Egypt to escape famine, then left Egypt in great haste to escape persecution. After making it through the wilderness and eventually establishing a home in the land of Israel, Jews were then exiled from this home, first by the Babylonians in 586 BCE, and then again in 70 of the Common Era by the Romans, who destroyed the temple in Jerusalem. Since this period of exile began, the Jewish people have been refugees expelled from land after land, kicked around the globe like a soccer ball. We Jews know the heart of a refugee. The refugee experience is not only a part of our history, it is a part of our present, as our global Jewish community continues to include those who were persecuted and forced to flee their homes in Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. In 1948, in response to the Holocaust, the United Nations chartered the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Article 14 of this document declares everyone has the right to seek and to enjoy in other countries asylum from persecution. And while the majority of today's refugees and asylum seekers aren't Jewish, the Torah teaches us that we have a moral obligation to care for immigrants, refugees, and asylum seekers, our fellow human beings who have fled their homes just as our ancestors did to escape persecution and hardship. At this time, we'll invite you, please, to join us as we turn to the kindling of our Shabbat lights. We'll ask Bobby and Matthew Sarnov to join us, who are connected to the Zoglin family and connected to our speaker this evening, and to join us as we continue.
Beneath a broken street lamp, shards of glass and remnants of humanity linger on the sidewalk. A hungry child cries out for food. A widow walks with tears in her eyes, but in her heart there is still hope for peace. When will the fighting end? Her children ask wearily. She answers patiently. When anger gives way to compassion, when hatred gives way to love, when darkness gives way to light. Promise me one thing, my children. Promise me that you will always act in ways that will fill the world with compassion, love, and light. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu l'chadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
Amen.
We'll continue with Kiddush and invite you, please, in body or in spirit, to join us and to rise.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho b'yavo v'ratzon hinhilanu, zikaro lemase v'reshit, ki hu yom tehillah lemikra kodesh, ze ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. אמן. נעשה לחיים. לחיים טובים.
And please be seated. We offer thanks, O God, for this Shabbat which unites us in faith and hope, for Shabbat holiness which inspires sacred living, for Shabbat memories glowing even in darkness, for Shabbat peace born of friendship and love. We offer thanks and blessing, O God.
יתגדל ויתקדש מרבה, ועמד יברך ירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכנו וימיכון ובחייך בית ישראל, בעגלה בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמרבה מבורך לעולם ולעלמי עלמיה, יתברך יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקדושה בריחו. לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמה ואמרו amen.
In welcoming the stranger, you can sit with us, you can live beside us, you can play your music, you can listen to mine. We can dance together, we can share our food, we can keep an eye on each other's kids, we can teach each other new languages, we can respect traditions, we can build new ones. You can ask for a cup of sugar, you can ask for directions, you can tell me when things are hard, you can tell me when beautiful things happen. We can listen to stories, we can disagree, we can agree, we can come to understandings. You can wear what you want, you can pray as you feel compelled to, you can love who you want, you can sit with us. Let's continue with our call to worship the Baruch Hu as we ask you please in body or in spirit to rise. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'ma'ariv aravim. In love, you offered your people Israel your Torah and mitzvot. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuta Le'olam Va'ed.
And please be seated as we continue with the Be'ahavta.
V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha בכל לבבך, בכל נפשך, ובכל מידיך. והיו הדברים האלה, אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשובך ובקומך, וקשרתם להות ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיהם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות להם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיהם.
In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. The high heavens declare your glory, and may earth reveal your justice and love. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea. Together, Baruch Atah Adonai HaPares Sukkot Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Amo Yisrael Ve'al Yerushalayim. Blessed One, you spread over us a canopy of peace, a shelter of shalom over all Israel, your people, and over Jerusalem.
Continue with the V'shamru, a prayer as we observe Shabbat. Shabbat is a sign between us and Israel. And so we sing in V'shamru as a sign between Shabbat and us. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat le'dorotam berit olam. Beni uven bnei Yisrael ot ki le'olam le'olam ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz uvayom hashvi'i ויהי נפש.
We give thanks. We are aware of those moments for which we are grateful. And we, all of us together, rise in body or in spirit as we turn to the words of the tefillah.
Adonai sefata tiftach ufi agi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotinu v'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, El Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanara, El Elyon, Gamel Chasadim Tovim, v'Kaneh Hakol, v'Zocher Chazdei Avot v'Imahot, Maybe Gila livnei b'neihem leman shemo b'ahava. Melech ozer u'Mashiach u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Abraham be'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechai hakol atah raf le'choshia. Mashiv haruach u'morid chag Hashem, Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechayeh hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim v'rofech olim, U'matir asurim, U'mekayem emunato, Lishenei afar, Michamocha b'gevorot, U'midom melach, Melech mimit u'mechayeh, u'matzmiach Yeshua, v'neheman ad le'ayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, mechayeh hakol.
Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kedoshim b'chol yom yehalelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh. Our God and God of our ancestors, be pleased with our rest. Sanctify us with your mitzvot and grant us a share in your Torah. Satisfy us with your goodness and gladden us with your salvation. Purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, Adonai, our God, grant as our heritage your holy Shabbat, that Israel who sanctifies your name may rest on it. Praise to you, Adonai, who sanctifies Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh ha-Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai hamachazir shchinato l'Tzion. Blessed are you whose divine presence is felt again in Zion. Baruch atah Adonai hatov shimcha u'lecha na'eh lehodot. Blessed are you, Adonai, whose goodness deserves thanks and praise.
Let's join together in Shalom Rav as we pray for peace. As you notice, we're using different images. We're being optimistic and looking forward to spring. And it's coming soon. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki Adon Melech Adon Lechol HaShalom. Ki Adon
Blessed are you, Adonai, who blesses your people Israel with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamivarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom. We take a few moments in silence and in prayer and in reflection. We know all too well this year and this season how fragile health is and can be, and turn our prayers, turn our hearts, turn ourselves to those who are in need, whose bodies are ailing, whose spirits are ailing, who almost a year later are worn, and we keep all of them, all of you, in our prayers as we say, Mishaberach Avotenu Ve'imotenu Avraham Yitzchak ve'Yaakov, Sarah Rivka Rachel Belaya, Hu Yivarech et HaCholin. May the one who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and give strength to those who are struggling. This evening, this Shabbat, we're holding in our prayers Shana Esther bat Rochel, Chaya Necha bat Ribalea, Katriel Parachia ben Herschel Laser v'Shoshana, Sally Graff, Sarah bat Avraham v'Sarah, William Fawcett Jr., Alan Skirker, Laura Braun, Barbara DeCario, Miriam Bat Ella, Stephen Brent, Rainey Feingold, Meredith Cavanis Ader, Reverend Gordon Webster, Mary Paikunka, Irving Manis, Ralph Bookbinder, Masha Batsheva, Christine Yang, Ziad Webb, Greg Novozenitz, and Susan Silton Tobias. I would ask you please to take a moment, unmute yourself, and let's hear each other's loved ones' names as well, and share the names of those who we ought to be holding in prayer as well.
Julie Everett.
Fidel Shelley.
Martin
Lois
Jacobson.
Potomlik.
Margaret Shire.
Lynn Fragan.
Lokesh Sakara.
Christine Platt.
Marty Kaufman.
Trish Bruckner.
Stan Escoda.
Sarah Pastelnik.
Freda
Allison
Lewis.
Moore.
Oh, yeah.
Phil Chufo. Amy Gasperi. David Altabelli.
Jonathan Fine.
Barbara Fox, Andrea Reynolds.
Joel Brill, Richard Jaffe, Judy Weiner, Leslie Frank.
our healthcare providers, our frontline and essential workers, all of you who are interfacing on a day-to-day basis with those who are serving and assisting us. Please take a moment also and notice the names that have been listed in the chat box as well. Let's hold all in our prayers, all those who are needing healing and wholeness and strength and patience and kindness and compassion. As we say, may the Blessed Holy One be filled with compassion, for health to be restored where possible, for renewal of strength and spirit. May God send renewal of body, renewal of spirit, confidence and patience and tenderness as we all join together in saying, Amen. We know how much we value the cycle of life and how we turn, we have said before, from prayers for peace, right? When we sing Shalom Rav to we're hoping and we're praying for prayers for peace and wholeness for those who are struggling now. And those for whom March is a blessed and wonderful and sacred month because it is the month of your birth. So if you would, with either your real hand or your digital hand, let us know if March is a birthday month for you, and scroll across, friends. Notice who is celebrating in the month of March. And let's take good and loving notice of how thankful we are of all of you who celebrate this month. And we say, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, O God, who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. Bless all those whose birthdays we celebrate in the coming month, in this month, in March. Bless them with an appreciation for this new stage in their lives. We pray a good one. And may they draw deeply from the well of learning, growth, and deepening of spirit, carrying with them all that has given them meaning and joy and good health, we pray, to this day, opening new possibilities for sweetness and light in the days to come. Bless them with good, strong, robust health and strength, courage and deepening compassion for the world and all who share the world together. And let us all join together in a heartfelt, in a warm Mazel Tov to all of you who celebrate this month. And we'll ask you please to join us as we continue with the Shechianu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam sheheyanu v'kimanu v'higiyanu lazman hazeh. Amen. 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 Amen.
And we'll ask God's blessing on you as we offer you the priestly benediction.
Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha.
May God bless you and may God keep you.
Yer Adonai panav elecha v'yihoneka.
May God's light shine upon you and may God be gracious with you.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.
May you feel God's presence within you, always around you, always, and may you find and know peace. And we all of us say, Ken Yehi Ratzon, let that be so. Let that be so.
Amen. Amen.
We are so honored and so delighted to have Rachel Zoglin joining us this evening as our guest speaker from HIAS. So many of you are familiar with the incredible work that HIAS, known to many for many years as the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society from the 1800s, right? We know this, and I know it even from Canada as JIAS, right? It was the sister group. We are delighted to have Rachel, who has, I'm hoping she'll tell us a little bit about her connection to Rochester as well. She's a national pro bono technical legal advisor at HIAS, where she develops and manages opportunities for pro bono attorneys across the country to get involved in supporting asylum seekers. Prior to joining HIAS, Rachel worked at a boutique immigration litigation firm in Bethesda, Maryland for around 7 years, where she represented immigrants seeking asylum, defending themselves against deportation, and applying for humanitarian relief. She serves as the vice chair of the American Immigration Lawyers Association Committee on Humanitarian Visas for Victims of Crime, Trafficking, and Domestic Violence. And we are so grateful that she's joining us this evening, and we will turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Hill. And what a beautiful service. And it was really amazing to see the incorporation on the temple side of Refugee Shabbat. And that's really not just me coming in and talking to you about refugees. I am from the Rochester area originally. I've been living down in DC for about 14 years, but grew up on the west side in Hilton. My aunts and uncles are East Siders and members of this congregation. So I have attended many a bar and bat mitzvah in your beautiful sanctuary. I was bat mitzvahed at Temple Beth David, because that is the congregation I grew up in. So, and my aunt Rochelle is here tonight. So hi, Aunt Rochelle. And as you mentioned, the Sarnoff family is basically other aunts. Bobby's is basically another aunt to me. So hi, Bobby, and thank you for playing a special part in the service tonight. So I want to jump in. I have a habit of talking too much, so I hope that I won't talk too much tonight. But I did prepare a short presentation. Oh, now this is going too fast. Sorry. I wanted to tell you, talk a little bit about HIAS, and then talk a little bit about why we have Refugee Shabbat tonight, and why we're talking about refugees. So as you know, as many of you know, HIAS used to be known as the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society. For the past 140 years, HIAS has been helping people rebuild their lives in safety after fleeing persecution, fleeing conflict. There are more persecuted people, more forcibly displaced people today than there ever have been in our world's history. There's an estimated 80 million people who have had to flee their homes, fleeing conflict and persecution. And organizations like HIAS really are stepping in to fulfill a need of helping people rebuild their lives. So when we talk about refugees, what do we mean? Refugees are people who have had to flee their home country due to persecution because of their religion, their nationality, their political opinion, their race, or because they're part of a particular social group. Essentially, we're talking about people who are fleeing persecution because of who they are. There's something about who they are that they're being harmed, or they fear that they will be harmed because of that. When we talk about asylum seekers, we talk about asylum seekers and refugee kind of in the same breath. They have to meet the same kind of definition. Asylum seekers and refugees are the same, except that asylum seekers haven't received the legal recognition or the legal protection that refugees have. So when we have refugees enter the United States, they already have a form of legal protection. They already have immigration status. They are already well on their way to rebuilding their lives. And when we talk about asylum seekers, they're really the same population of people. They're fleeing persecution. They just haven't gone through the process and haven't completed the process of getting legal recognition or legal protection. I'm going to skip over a little bit of the history of HIAS because it's something that I think everybody can find pretty well online, and I summarized already. But I would be remiss if I didn't say that I want to include this kind of unofficial motto of HIAS that our president, if you ever heard our president Mark Hetfield speak, he likes to say about HIAS that we used to help refugees because they were Jewish, and now we help refugees because we are Jewish. HIAS was, originally started to help resettle Jewish refugees. And then as, time went on, there were fewer Jewish refugees needing resettlement, but there were still persecuted people all over the world that did need help, rebuilding their lives. And so HIAS began expanding their work to include non-Jewish refugees in the 2000s, and then began expanding its work outside of the US as well, recognizing that many persecuted people and refugees and asylum seekers don't make it to the United States, but they do need support in rebuilding their lives where they are. So now HIAS operates in 16 countries, including the United States, and we work through a network of refugee resettlement affiliate organizations across 11 states in the US. We do this work through kind of 4 main facets of working to help people rebuild their lives through legal services and support, which is what I'm most familiar with, being a lawyer and running pro bono projects. Obviously, it's really important to help people get the legal status they need to be able to rebuild their lives in their new country, their new home country. We work to end gender-based violence, both helping survivors of gender-based violence and working in programmatic ways to try to reduce the incidence of gender-based violence. We organize community-based mental health programs to promote the well-being of refugees and asylum seekers. And then we have another facet of HIAS's work is economic inclusion. So helping enable refugees to work towards financial independence. And of course, this is where all of you come in. Advocacy is a huge part of what we do at HIAS. We couldn't do the work that we do without the greater Jewish community standing up for the rights of refugees and asylum seekers worldwide. So because I'm a lawyer, I have to have one slide here that is, that's my lawyer hat, and then I promise I will take it off and I won't spend too much time. But I did want to share with you and get everybody thinking about where asylum and refugee legal protection comes from. And Rabbi Till's presentation was great because it included kind of the few years before this, which was the 1948 Declaration of Human Rights and declaring that people have the right to seek asylum. The 1951 Convention relating to the status of the refugee, also coming out of the United Nations, is the first time the refugee is. And you'll see this definition mirrors a little bit what I spoke of before, somebody who fears persecution because of their race, religion, nationality, political opinion, membership in a particular social group, and they're outside of their home country. They can't go back to their home country because their home country won't protect them. Either their home country, the government is persecuting them, or there are persecutors there who the government can't control, can't stop. In 1951, when this first definition of a refugee came out, it was geographically and temporally restricted. We're talking, just coming out of World War II and the Holocaust. And this, the United Nations created this, says, it is a human Declaration of Human Rights. It is a human right to be able to seek asylum. We're now saying we're going to define what it is to be a persecuted person. And in 1951, to be a persecuted person was to be a survivor of the Holocaust. That definition was not expanded until 1967 when they passed the protocol relating to the status of refugees. That really recognized that persecution because of who someone is a phenomenon that was not limited to World War II. And as Jews, we know that is true because Jews have been persecuted for centuries, not just during the Holocaust. And that persecution occurs all over the world. It continues to till today. And that when we're talking about who refugees are, and when we're talking about protecting people from persecution and helping them rebuild their lives after they are persecuted for who they are, that it's not restricted to certain parts of the globe and certain times in history. But it wasn't until 1980 that the United States took action on really, took how we as a government and we as an American people were going to serve and protect refugees. There was not a formal refugee resettlement program in the United States before 1980. There was not a formal way for people to seek asylum in the United States before 1980. It didn't exist. There was no pathway. And so in 1980, Congress passed the Refugee Act. And that was the first time that the definition of refugee was incorporated into US law, and a formal process was created for refugees to be able to resettle in the United States or seek asylum inside our borders. I like to include this infographic. It's from Human Rights First, so it's not a highest infographic, but I think it's illustrative of that. There's not one way that persecuted people come to the United States. There's not one way that persecuted people get protection in the United States. There's various ways that persecuted people and refugees get to the United States and are able to get protection or not. So I'm not going to walk through all of these different ways, but I think that the infographic is very useful to kind of describe that. And I'm happy to share the PowerPoint later if folks are interested. I'm going to talk a little bit about refugees specifically and a little bit about asylum seekers specifically. Even though I did say, we're talking about essentially the same population, that they get to the United States in different ways and they get protection in different ways. Refugee resettlement in the United States is set by the president. Every year, the president sets what's called a presidential determination, which is essentially the annual ceiling, the limit of how many refugees will be permitted to enter the United States and resettle in the United States each year. This graph that you see here is essentially showing you since 1980, since this formal refugee resettlement process began, what the refugee ceiling looked like, what the presidential determination was, and then how well the actual admissions of refugees matched up with that ceiling. So you'll see when there are certain events in American history that would cause the dips in the graph here. You'll see at the September 11th terrorist attacks, the refugee ceiling had previously been set at 70, and then only a fraction of that number of that ceiling actually came into the United States. So what I really wanted to show with this graph is that there's so much that's controlled by the president and by the administration. So when we talk about how important advocacy is to what HIAS does, it's so important to have advocates and all of you, people who are going to talk not just to pushing Congress, but to talk to your neighbors, talk to your fellow congregants, talk to your family. This is it's a political issue that really it needs political support and social support. The president is the one who sets the ceiling, and the president also sets priorities for who is able to come in as a refugee. Oops, sorry. Now I just changed the screen here. Can you all see still? Trying to make it, there we go. Okay. I just mentioned the president sets the number, the ceiling of how many refugees can come into the United States, but also determines who's going to be invited to come in. So I wanted to give this snapshot as well. When we're talking about refugees, when we're talking about people who are being invited to come to the United States, who are we really talking about? These are really political motivations that underlie who our government will recognize as refugees and who our government will invite in. And you'll see over the past 40 years, the refugees that we have brought to the United States has really varied a lot by region. We'll see in like the 90s, or we're in the 90s and 2000s, we're thinking this is the Cold War era, right? There were a lot of European refugees who were invited in. To more of the past 10, 15 years, we're looking at more Asian immigrants who have been invited in. I think it's also interesting to think about who we're inviting in terms of religion. And one of the things I really want to impress upon you is how this has changed over the past few years. This other category includes a whole swath of people that identify with different religions, including Jews. But you'll see, I think the most marked difference here in this graph is the number of Muslims who were being resettled through our refugee program over in the 2010s and teens, and then not starting in around 2017. I thought I had another slide here that showed this, but I guess I must have taken it out. We wonder why that is when we're talking about, the political motivations of our refugee program. Why is it that all of a sudden in 2017 and 2018 and 2019, there's a fraction of the refugees that were previously admitted? Why is it in 2018, 2019, there's a fraction of the Muslim refugees that we're admitting? That's not an accident. This is this is political motivations under the previous administration that very specifically intended to keep out Muslims, intended to keep out certain populations of people. I wanted to switch a little bit and talk about asylum. We talked about refugees are folks who, persecuted people who are able to secure their status at the time they come in. They already have this legal protection. People who are seeking asylum don't yet have legal protection. They're looking to get that protection. I want folks to really understand that seeking asylum is legal, and I include the photo to the right here. Many people may recognize it's from the MS St. Louis, which was a ship that had hundreds of Jewish refugees that were trying to come to the United States during the Holocaust and were turned away. They were trying to seek asylum. There wasn't a way to do that formally back then, which is why that there is a process now, right? There are national, because of the Refugee Act in 1980, we have national and international pathways for persecuted people to seek protection. But despite that, asylum, both the refugee process and the asylum process has been really fraught with, it's been, I think, affected by the politics of the day, and the politics of the day have affected the process. So what we've seen over the past few years, especially, is that asylum seekers have been vilified and they've been punished. We've seen the increased use of immigration detention, even for asylum seekers, the detention of families together. We saw family separation over the past few years, and this is not an accident. These are tools that have been used to try to deter and punish people from seeking asylum. Over the past few years, we've seen a real tightening and restriction of asylum law, making it much more difficult for persecuted people to be able to successfully obtain protection. It's really pulling the rug out from underneath people. They're changing the law, while the process is ongoing. So there were people who qualified for asylum, when they first began their process, when they first, presented themselves at the border asking for help, that 2 years later, now there's a change in the law and they no longer qualify for protection. And then we saw, in addition to obviously family separation, everybody probably heard of, we saw a huge restriction, very specifically at the southern border, of our asylum process. Really was intended to turn people away. It was intended to make it so that people can't come and secure protection or secure, build new lives for themselves, secure safety in the United States. So we saw what was called the Remain in Mexico program, or not so aptly called the Migrant Protection Protocol. It did nothing to protect people. It essentially turned asylum seekers at the southern border away and made them wait in Mexico while they were trying to seek asylum in the United States. It was really unprecedented. It was nothing that was implemented in immigration law or practice before, turning asylum seekers away and letting them pursue asylum, but from another country where they didn't have any real support, and were practically in incredibly dangerous situations, very far away from friends and family who could support them, and of particular interest and concern to me, very far away from lawyers. What we've seen also in the past year is the administration using the pandemic as a pretext to turn people away. In the very beginning of the pandemic, the Department of Homeland Security, kind of in concert with the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, passed this or used this kind of obscure section of the US code to expel asylum seekers and say, well, we have a public health and public safety crisis. We have to, we're not going to let any migrants in. Nobody can seek asylum right now. Everybody's getting turned away and not even having a chance to, present their claim, present their case. The Secretary of Health and Human Services, about a year ago, it was March of last year, said, well, we can't have migrants here because they're the ones who are bringing the disease with them. They're bringing the virus. They're going to be a risk to the American society as a whole. They're going to be a risk to each other. They're going to be a risk to the people who work in detention centers. And at that time, there were thousands and thousands of cases of coronavirus here in the United States. And there were, I think, 30 cases in all of the Northern Triangle, El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras combined, and about 100 cases in Mexico. So it was really, the facts don't back up, how the law has been used really as a weapon instead of as a form of protection for people. A couple of things I wanted to really emphasize as we're talking about the need for advocacy and we're talking about the need for people to get involved on behalf of asylum seekers and refugees. Why is there a problem? Obviously I talked about all the problems at the border, but even once people are entering the United States, what's wrong with the system? Even the asylum system is highly dependent on the politics of the day. Immigration courts, which is where most of asylum cases are adjudicated, and even asylum offices where the rest of the asylum cases are adjudicated, are not independent, meaning they are beholden to the administration. They're part of the Department of Justice. Asylum offices are part of the Department of Homeland Security. They are administrative agencies that follow the president. The president sets the tone. The president sets the policy. So whatever the president sets the policy as, that's what our asylum law is, and that's who adjudicates those claims. What we see as practitioners, and what I saw a lot, as a private attorney, is that the outcome of somebody's case, the outcome of whether somebody can win asylum and gain protection and stay in the United States, really doesn't always depend on what their story is, doesn't always depend on what actually happened to them. What can really determine the outcome are really arbitrary things like where does this person live and what they're pending. So I wanted to include some statistics here to really show kind of how arbitrary this can be. The closest immigration court to Rochester is in Buffalo. The judges in Buffalo deny asylum to the people in that court at a rate of over 75%. So over 75% of the asylum claims that are heard by the judges in Buffalo are denied. Where I practice law in the DC area, so I practice before the Baltimore, Maryland, and the Arlington, Virginia courts, those are around 50%. That's a huge difference. And it's not to say that the people with better, stronger cases, go to live in DC and don't go to live in Rochester, right? There's something about these courts and there's something about these judges and the way that they look at cases. And because these judges are beholden to the administration, they're not independent. There's really no way to ensure that they're applying the law properly and correctly and the same every time. And the other really major factor of whether someone, an asylum seeker will be able to win their case and secure protection in the US is whether they can afford a lawyer. This is not like in the criminal context, and everybody, if you're not a lawyer, you've heard you're probably familiar with from TV and movies that if somebody is arrested, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say or do can be used against you. You have the right to an attorney, and if you can't afford one will be appointed for you. That's only in the criminal context. That doesn't apply in immigration, even though the consequences of these hearings can mean life or death for many people. People have the right to bring an attorney with them to court, but that attorney is not going to be provided for them by the government. So if they can't afford a lawyer and they can't get a nonprofit to represent them, they really have a fraction of the chance of succeeding in their claim. Statistics have shown that immigrants who have an attorney are 5 times more likely to succeed on their claims for relief. That number is even greater for people who are detained immigrants. If they don't have an attorney, they're far less likely to be able to stay in the United States and win protection. If they have an attorney, they're 11 times more likely to succeed on their claims. So I don't want to make it seem that it's all doom and gloom here. We are very optimistic that we have a new president, a new administration. We're optimistic that the situation for refugees and asylum seekers will change and will improve than what it's been over the past few years. But that's not to say that we can rest easy now and that advocacy is no longer important. Advocacy is still it's still going to make a very big difference for the ability of persecuted people to safely rebuild their lives in the United States. So in the refugee context, President Biden said that he plans to raise the presidential determination or raise the refugee ceiling. It was previously set by President Trump for the fiscal year 2021, which goes from October 2020 to the end of September 2021. President Trump set that refugee ceiling at 15,000. That's the lowest ever, the lowest that it's ever been in the history of the refugee resettlement process in the United States. President Biden indicated his plan to raise that presidential determination and invite in more than 60,000 refugees. That hasn't, we haven't seen that happen yet. So when we talk about, why advocacy is important, that's great that President Biden said he's going to do that, but we need to continue to urge the president and encourage the administration to have, put forth policies and act on policies that do protect refugees. For the next 4 years, President Biden will be setting his own presidential determination. He'll be setting his own refugee ceiling for the years to come. It's been rumored that for 2022, which will begin in October of this year, that he intends to set the presidential determination at 125,000. That would be great. That would be almost a historical high. But that's the rumor. So there really for advocacy and to continue to push the administration to welcome refugees. In the asylum sphere, President Biden did end the migrant protection protocol or the Remain in Mexico program. They're not putting people in this program anymore. However, these asylum seekers are still stuck in Mexico. Over 70,000 people were returned to Mexico under this program. About 25,000 of them still have active cases. They're still pursuing their cases. And so the administration is beginning to welcome those asylum seekers into the United States. It's been, a difficult process, I think, with respect to taking care with COVID and all those, the precautions that everybody needs to take. HIAS is working very closely with UNHCR south of the border to facilitate this process. But we are seeing asylum seekers finally entering the United States. So they'll be able to continue their process from inside the United States and they'll be in a safe place. But we still are seeing a lot of the restrictive laws and policies set forth from the prior administration that are still valid law. They're still on the books that can really continue to frustrate and impede the ability of asylum seekers to establish their legal case and win protection. So how can you get involved? I've been trying to push not so subtly throughout this presentation. Please get involved. This is an incredibly important issue. This is a life and death issue that we as Jews know, we're very familiar with. We know about these issues personally. You can get involved through HIAS. There's a couple of different events and campaigns that our advocacy team is involved with in this month and next month. The Welcome to Congress campaign. The advocacy team is doing virtual congressional meetings in the month of April. We also, just to learn more about the situation for refugees and asylum seekers, at the beginning of the pandemic, our community engagement team created a HIAS at home. So there's all these different resources through our website and ways that you can engage with HIAS and on these issues at home. We also have a book club and film club. And then of course, I have to plug my own area. We have opportunities to volunteer. We have opportunities for lawyers to volunteer pro bono. We have opportunities for non-lawyers to volunteer and do other, support refugees and asylum seekers in other ways. Passover is coming. And the Exodus story is the refugee story. So we invite you to bring Highest to your Seder. We do have a Highest Haggadah that's available for download from our website. And continue to raise these issues of refugees and asylum seekers, and think about it, at home and with your families and your community. I'm sorry for going over time. I talk a lot. I'm happy to answer questions. I'm happy to receive emails later if folks don't want to ask questions on Zoom. You can feel free to email me. And thank you so much.
Rachel, thank you. Thank you. We're going to, hope and pray that you have a few minutes to stay at the end of services for those who might have a few questions. And certainly, everybody can take down your information or maybe reach out to Bobby and get your information as well, or any of us. But I suspect many of us could listen for an hour to much more that you have to share with us. And you're right. We know Lo Alecha Amlacha Ligmor, right? That it's right. Pirkei Avot says it's not our job to finish the task, but neither are we free to desist from it, right? So it's there are positive moves forward now, but much work and education and advocacy needed. So deepest thanks for all that you've just shared with us and the resources that you bring to us. And we put please God, a comma on it, not a period. Most of us, I think, are probably here in some way, shape, or form because of the work that Highest has done. Right, for most of us. So yes.
And me too. Yeah, my grandmother, is so happy that I'm working for Highest. Every time we talk about it, she says it's like poetry. That Highest helped my family come resettle in the United States in the early 1900s, and then now I'm back. Now I'm back at Highest. So.
Right. It's that circle. Deepest thanks. And I know that I share thanks from all those who are gathered with us this evening as well. Friends, let's turn to the end of our service together to our concluding prayers to the Elenu and Kaddish, and we'll invite you please to keep in touch with Rachel or reach her through us through the office if needed, and we'll invite you please to join us in body or in spirit as we rise for the Elenu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשה נוגי הרצות, ולא שמנו כמשפט האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל חמונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, ונאמר וחי אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו
We turn our thoughts now to loved ones whom death has taken from us in recent days and those who died at this season in years past. Our hearts open as well to the wider circles of loss in our community and wherever grief touches the human family. We are in the period of Shloshim, the last 30 days. We are mourning the loss of Simon Brightman, father of Blanche Fenster and husband of Josephine, Michael Rutberg, uncle of David Rutberg, Turk Morale, husband of BJ Mann, JD Weisenberg, cousin of Jerry Weisenberg, Stanley Tim Funk, cousin of Arlene Weisenberg, and Leah Bell, mother of Rochelle Bell. This Shabbat marks a yahrzeit and anniversary of passing for Tzipora Adar, Charles Baker, Paulina Borachova, Etta Brown, Mordechai Dror, Eugene Ellis, Marshall Falk, Kai Feinstein, Miriam Fishgold, Robert Fleischer, Bernard Frank, Maurice Friedman, Richard Friedman, Thelma K. Glasner, Lillian Gould, Diana Guest, Pavel Gorvik, Mildred Hill, Lionel Honorat, Arnold Israel, Annette Itkin, Bernard Jacobs, Richard Kamenash, Riva Kishenko, Rebecca Kosmandel, Moisey Morris Lux, Mildred Lux, Maria Madonia, Ida Menler, Pearl Mercier, Sanford Meyerowitz, Leonard Newman, Mildred Rabinowitz, Fanny Rosenblum, Ben Seidel, Leonid Sandberg, Libby Schlossberg, Robert Silverman, Jack Slowetsky, Mary Jo Smith, Tobert Stein, Henry Essex Stropnicki, Beatrice Soltz, Dov Weidenfeld, and Yefim Yermis. If there are others whom you would add to either list or names that are better spoken aloud by you, please would you unmute yourself for a moment, share that name aloud with us.
Pearl Green.
Krill.
Zichronam Livracha, let's gather all of those names, those memories. As we say, their memories will be for a blessing, and we join together in the words of the mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shmei Rabbah, ve'almad yivrach yerutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala uv'zman kariv v'imru, amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam ulmei ulmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudashah brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'imramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru, amen. May the source of peace bestow peace on all who mourn, and may we be a source of comfort to all who are bereaved as we join together in saying, amen. And please be seated, please be seated. We want to thank once again our incredible speaker, Rachel Zogman from HIAS this evening, and for sharing her expertise and her time with us. And also Renee Brownstein for being our greeter this evening, and to Bobby and Matthew for being our candlelighters this evening. Nice to connect so many beautiful dots. Join us tomorrow morning for Torah study at 9:15 and Shabbat morning services at 10:30, religious school on Sunday, and Torah chanting club at 11 a.m. also on Sunday. Tuesday, March 9th, please mark down the Women's Chavurah program on racial equality and justice initiative program with the guest speaker, Christine Wagner. That is at 7 p.m. on Tuesday. And we hope that you will join us then. Next Friday night, a week from tonight, there's a young family service followed by the craft activity beginning at 5 p.m. And then please join us next week. Hard to imagine when we gather together, COVID 1 year later, and we hope that you'll join us. And we'll ask you tonight, please, to consider bringing an additional candle of some sort to light before Shabbat candle lighting together, so that we can cast some more light together. So bring your Shabbos candles, and also bring another light next week at 6 p.m. for our Shabbat services. And please also mark your calendars next Saturday morning, the 13th, Torah study at 9:15. But our Shabbat morning, our lay-led Shabbat morning service, which if you have been to any of them, you know they are not to be missed. So that is next week, and then also Havdalah and getting ready for Passover a week from tomorrow night, also 5:30 on Saturday evening. Almost done, I promise. I know everybody's hungry. We want to give, we started services like this, but we want to give an official mazel tov to Elise and Joe Wojciechowski on the birth of their grandson, Jonah Eitan, and he is the son of Jeffrey and Eliza. And we could not be more excited to have another musician and another Wojciechowski to join the family, and wish you warmest, most delicious best. And also a mazel tov to Howard and Sue Weiner on the recent engagement of their son Eric to Jessica Steckloff. And we are very, very delighted to share good news this evening on both fronts. Speaking of race, we have our next opening up to listening, acting, and healing. Social Action Committee wants you to note that gathering on March 14th. You can find information on our website or contact Sandy Mitzner for that. And then finally, lastly, the U of R has a film screening and panel discussion on Wednesday, March 10th on Joachim Prince, I Shall Not Be Silent. You can find that information on our website. It looks like an incredible evening. A German Jewish rabbi refugee who spoke and was very active in the civil rights movement. So you can find that information. That's March 10th. If we have missed anything at all, unmute yourself quickly or put it in the chat box. Let us know if there's anything else that we should be celebrating or noting this evening.
Just want to draw attention to the virtual pad kit making session, March Padness. It's Rochester's National Council of Jewish Women's program, but we are doing it again at Temple Sinai. Please see the website and snippets for more information. Any contribution is most helpful and very much appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And say hello to the cute baby, Zoglin's baby. Oh, look at that.
Let's join us as we conclude with Motzi and our closing song, and we'll invite you, please, to share your chalot, show us your showbreads, and let's give thanks for what sustains and nourishes us.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Betavon. We'll conclude the service with Lechilach, which is very appropriate for tonight. Please join me. Lechilach to that I will show you. Lech lecha to a place you do not know. Lechilach on your journey I will bless you, and you shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. Lechilach. Lechilach, and I shall make your name great. Lech lecha, and all shall praise your name. Lechilach, to the place that I will show you. Lesimchat chayim, lesimchat chayim, lesimchat chayim, lechilach.
Shabbat shalom, everyone. You can unmute yourself and wish each other Shabbat shalom. We're glad to be with you as always. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
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 Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Thanks, everybody.
Forward.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everyone. Shabbat shalom.
Well, well.
Bye, shalom, Mrs. Schwartz.
Oh, baby.
Oh,
Oh, wow.
Hi, Kim.
bye.
I wonder who that was.
How old is she, Rachel?
Adorable.
Shabbat shalom, everybody. This is Eliana. She's 6 months old.
Wow.
Very
Good to see you.
I didn't move it.
Oh, I thought it was before, but he's
Trailing it.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom. Hi, Ari.
Shabbat shalom.
Thank you,
Bye.
Rachel.
Thank you.
Oh, here it is. Here it is. Here it is. Right here.
Aw.
Thank you, Bobby. And Matthew, thank you.
Bye, Bobby.
Oh, Rachel.
Yeah.
Good to see you, Rachel.
Trying to see.
Rachel's got
See you too, Bobby and Matthew.
How do you know each other, Bobby?
So, young man.
Oh, for 20
Oh,
years
nice.
now, 25 years, right?
Long-time family friend.
Yeah.
I babysat for Matthew's older sister when she was little.
Yes. When she was about that age.
Yeah. Yeah.
When she was about that age, I think.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's precious.
It's good she's not here. We would love to have her here, but it's good she's not here so you can't tell any horror stories, right? I'm sure she was an amazing
She was the
kid.
perfect baby.
I'm sure she was an amazing kid the way Matthew is and the way they still are. I'm sure. Rachel, thank you. That was wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Really, I think there's so many of us who could have listened far longer, you know. So thank you.
Yeah.
This is full time for you, right? Are you working full time?
Yeah.
No.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm full-time at Highest.
Wow. Oh.
It's such a important work. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
It's great work. It's a really great organization. It's like coming home.
Yeah.
It was really nice. It was the right opportunity at the right time. So.
Thank you for such a thorough presentation.
Oh, my pleasure. I hope I didn't bore everybody with my.
No, not
I
at
tried to
all.
keep the law to a minimum.
No, there's so
Did a
many
great
levels,
job.
right? So many layers for us to know about. Yeah.
We're just feeling so hopeful now with Biden, just hopeful that our families can come and join us in the country of our country now. Been waiting 4 years for this to rejoin the families and have new families come in. Looking so forward to it.
Amen. Amen.
Yes, amazing.
Rachel, we're gonna with a heart full of thanks, let you go have dinner and enjoy. Shabbat shalom. Please, when things are again well, we would be honored and delighted to have you in live time, right? Standing in our sanctuary or in a classroom, and really, truly, we would love to learn more with you. Really.
I'd love to join you anytime. Thank you so much for having me.
An honor. Thank you.
Thank you.
And tell your little one that we're glad that she joined us as well.
Yeah.
I missed her name.
Maybe
What's her
Shabbat services?
as a person? What's her name?
Eliana.
Eliana. Oh,
Eliana.
beautiful.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Well, you can come anytime.
We have many built-in babysitters.
Yeah, poor pandemic baby only knows everybody through Zoom.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So cute.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom.
Rachel.
Bye.
Bye, Rachel.
Bye.
Bye, Eliana. Bye, bye, bye.
Bye, baby.